This is Diamond D with where I'm giving you some love advice, some happiness advice, some everyday good advice to make your day a little more loving. Hello, this is Diamond D with Love and Happiness, where I'm giving you some love advice, some happiness advice, some everyday good advice to make your day a little more loving. Today, we have the pleasure of having Dr. Carol Bunch on the show. And Dr. Carol will be discussing with us some concerns, some issues, and some other matters related to COVID-19. Thank you, Dr. Carol, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I know your life has drastically changed, just like everyone else, because of the stay-at-home orders, as well as the entire pandemic and all of the circumstantial issues that the pandemic presents in terms of how we grocery shop, how we maintain our beauty regimen with getting our hair done, getting our nails done, and everyday life concerns. How are you adjusting?
Um, it's been interesting actually. It has changed a lot. Going into the grocery store with masks and things like that has been totally like, okay, what do we wear kind of thing. I'm wearing like double mask and and gloves. So going into grocery stores and things like that, wearing gloves and masks, it has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Even pumping gas, wearing gloves when you're pumping gas has changed. So yes. So life has changed. But we have to what? We change with life. We do
Mhm.
what we need to do to make sure that we're safe and make sure that we're comfortable. And then make sure that our anxiety is low and not high. Because
Oh,
that's one of the
absolutely.
things that has happened.
Mhm. Yeah, my sister was commenting to me earlier today, saying now that they have a quota on the number of meat products you have to buy in the grocery store. It used to be that you could go to the store and buy, 3, 4 packs of steak, but because of the pandemic, now they're rationing it, so you can only buy 2 packs of chicken now. And these are just residual matters that come about because of the entire pandemic. But I'm hopeful. I hear that we have started to flatten the curve. So hopefully, in that flattening of the curve process, we can get some of the ban of the stay-at-home orders lifted, and we can kind of go to our life, pre-pandemic and pre-stay-at-home orders. But something tells me, even when we get to that point, it's still not going to be the same. What do you think?
I think that life will change forever. I don't think we will go back to what life was before. I think that we will be more hyper vigilant in a way. And what
Mhm.
I mean by hyper vigilant, I think that we will be more careful in some of the things that we do. So I don't think we will ever go back to the way that we were before. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
and that could be a good thing because I think people are washing their hands more thoroughly now.
That is true.
I think also people are also challenging others. Like when people go to the bathroom, they say, "Don't forget to wash your hands," or "Be careful." So I think we are also looking out for each other, and that's something that may have been missing in our society. So, so there can be some good things that happen as a result of COVID. Of how do we check on people, you know, and what are we seeing out in the public? So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And, I was the recipient of one of those kind acts the other day. I went to the post office and I didn't have my hand sanitizer. And I was just looking through my mail, and a complete stranger came up to me and said, "Do you want some of this hand sanitizer?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." But I felt like it was so sweet and sincere and kind for her to share her hand sanitizer, because nowadays you're hard pressed to find hand sanitizer
That
anywhere.
is true.
And she
That is
just
true.
opened her heart to a complete stranger and shared her sanitizer with me. And I thought that was overwhelmingly sweet and kind and courteous of her. And I do see that the world will become a more kinder place because of this pandemic. I think that we've gotten closer in the sense that people are calling on other people via phone, not text, checking on them and just trying to maintain any type of social contact that they have. Do you have any recommendations of how we can continue to maintain social contact, in the midst of the stay-at-home orders, because I think that sometimes when people are home all the time, there is that anxiety, there's loneliness, a little bit of depression. So what are some tidbits or tips that we can use to sort of improve our condition now that we're on stay-at-home or lockdown orders?
Well, one of the things is definitely contact people, call them and check on them. And if you can't call them and check on them, also text them, email them, send them notes, send them cards. We have the apps where you can actually send cards. So send them a card, say, hey, I'm thinking about you. How are you doing? So you can actually send cards. So do that also for your friends. But for yourself, one of the things that we recommend is, or I recommend, is get outside, go sit on your porch, go in your backyard, get on your deck, and just get some of the sun. It's warming up a little bit. So get outside and breathe some fresh air. And if you walk up and down your driveway, walk up and down your driveway. So get outside. And that helps also to reduce some of your anxiety. So do that. One of the things that I believe first thing in the morning is that when you wake up, think of something that you're grateful for. And that is like to be alive, to be breathing. And if you're healthy, to be healthy. And so do that. And relax. A lot of times because of the COVID, there's a lot of, like you said, depression and anxiety. So anxiety and depression, those two things. And so how do we get in the middle? I use my hands a lot, I'm sorry. How do you get in the middle? And so anxiety here and depression is there. So how do we balance that out? One of the things is, I believe, is that spend some quiet time and just appreciate life. That, hey, we are here, and learn to appreciate that. And so one of the things that I also believe is that as we go through our daily life, okay, have a plan for each day. Because one of the things that can cause depression is we don't have a plan. We get up now that we're home, we get up, there's nothing to do. And especially if you don't have a job right now, there's nothing to do. So at the night before, think of what do you want to do the next day and write that list. This is what I want to accomplish tomorrow. So that when you get up in the morning, you have a list of things that you want to accomplish that day. And start working on your list and see what you can accomplish. And having accomplished things, and it doesn't have to be a humongous list, and it doesn't have to be a large thing to do. So for example, you may want to clean out a closet, or you may want to organize something. The fact that you complete something, even if it's a small thing, it's just like, oh yeah, I did that. Even if you want to wash the front door, but accomplish something. And that can lift you out of that level of depression. The other piece with the anxiety, there's so much information out there on the COVID, so much information. And what you want to do is you want to be knowledgeable, but you don't want to saturate yourself. So you spend just a minimum amount of time a day on the news about COVID-19. Don't spend a whole lot of time. Don't spend hours and hours and hours in front of the television. Just spend enough time so that you know what's going on out here in the world, and then go on with your life. And I think that would decrease the anxiety. And then having activities during the day would increase the depression.
Yeah. I think that is exactly on point, especially when you reference how long and the amount of time and the amount of news and information and facts that we get on COVID-19 can be overwhelming, and it can cause a person to have a high anxiety about the issue. But just limiting the amount of time that you're watching the news, you're reading your news feeds about the issue can help a lot. It's not that you're doing a blind eye to it, but you're just screening and filtering it so that it doesn't become overwhelming. And then your point about having a plan for the day is very important. I think that especially with kids, now that the kids are out of school, the parents are working from home, it's a new bear to handle and to tackle because it's different, it's strange. And, parents are just not used to having to teach the children, having to monitor whether their classwork is being done. I mean, we're used to the homework, but not the classwork. So what are some strategies you can give to parents who are just handling and grasping all these new changes, all these new issues, and then the children are in the house? So what do you
Yeah, that is interesting, because with the kids now, a lot of kids have just started doing homework too, and they're doing it on the computers. So another thing is also teaching your kids how to actually use the computer and how to actually get into their assignments.
Right.
So, which means that the parents have to be aware of, this is what we need to do, and making sure they have the codes to get into the assignment. That has been an issue that's been going on too, making sure that the parents have the codes so that they can get into the assignments. That's another issue. So parents have to be abreast in helping their kids maneuver the work, and to get them on a schedule. The kids have to be on a schedule too. And we're finding that a lot of kids, their classes are starting at 8 o'clock. So some of the kids have been out of school now or haven't had any work to do for a few weeks. And then the last couple of weeks, they have to be up and ready to do work at 8 o'clock, which means the parents, again, going back to a schedule, the parents need to be ready to have their kids at their location doing their homework. So the home has to be set up so that the kids have their space for their homework and for their assignments, and they'll be ready for school. And sometimes the kids may have to be in a separate area, and sometimes they have to be together. And also the parents are starting work. The ones that are working, the parents are also working at the same time. So what I'm hearing from some parents is that it's causing a lot of maneuvering. They're making sure that their kids have a stationary place, but then they may have to move their workstation around in the house. And so they're having to adjust more than their kids. So they're having their kids to be in a stationary location for their work, but then they may have to move from different places. So it's interesting, and that in itself is causing some anxiety.
Yes.
But parents are having to talk that out amongst themselves before they go to their kids and say, this is what we have to do, or this is where you're going to do your work. And this is, and one incident that happened, I think last week or week before last, is that a parent was on a conference call, and they had their child where they could see their child, and the child was raising their hand when they had a question. it was so funny. And so then the parent would put the call on mute and would go help the child, and then would go back. And then finally it was lunchtime or past lunchtime, and the kid just start making this face like, who are you going to feed me? Who are you going to feed me? And so the mother that was on the call said, hey guys, we're going to have to quickly stop this call because, my child is ready to eat lunch. And somebody else on the call said, it's about time. Yes. It is lunchtime. Yeah, it's lunchtime. Yeah. And so it's interesting how families have had to maneuver around this COVID-19 at home, and having space and designated spaces to work. But the thing about it is that, especially for parents and for kids, when you know that you go to your location, it's like your mind will tell you, this is where I work.
Yes.
This is where I do my schoolwork. This is where I do my work from home.
Yeah. Yeah, experts do. They do. I hear your recommendation, and it is echoed by other experts in that area that also say that you should have a specific designated area or your workspace to always do your work so that your mind by habit is thinking when I'm at this desk or when I'm in this office or this area, I'm going to do my work.
Yes. And it works. It does. Mentally, it works. Mentally, it does work. So, but we have to have a plan. And that's the piece is we have to have a plan.
Right.
And if we don't have a plan, then things get hectic. And when things get hectic, anxiety increase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when anxiety increases and we start blaming ourselves, then we get depressed.
Oh, yes.
And so if we maintain a plan, and sometimes we have to put those charts, you know how you put those charts on the refrigerator? Sometimes we have to put those schedule charts up there and say, hey kids, this is what we're gonna do today. You know, we still got to get up at 7 or 6:30 to get your clothes on, to get your breakfast or whatever. We still have to do that. So,
yeah, that's good information. You know, Dr. Carol, unfortunately, when people are together in these kind of high stress, high anxiety environments, it lends itself to a lot of bickering and arguments. And I read a statistic the other day that the number of calls to the domestic violence hotlines have increased. And the number of calls to the suicide prevention hotline has increased all during the pandemic. What's your views on that subject?
that is true. We have had an increase in cases of domestic violence and suicidal ideations because of this COVID-19. And unfortunately, that is the case. With families under the same roof and they're having problems coping,
Yeah.
we've had an increase. And so how do we deal with coping? Number one, we have to deal with communication. Domestic violence is an issue. It has no socioeconomic status range. It's from all levels. It's from all races. So how do we deal with communications? And one of the things we have to do is how do we stay safe? We have to figure out a way to stay safe also. And so part of that is with communication. Okay. And how do we communicate with each other? So yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times when people are experiencing that level of abuse, they become more isolated and more to themselves that we see in this pandemic. Are there strategies that we should be aware of as friends, as supporters, as people in their family to assist or to help them in that regard?
One of the strategies we had talked about earlier is calling your friends, checking on them. How are you doing? Mm-hmm. And if you know someone that is in a domestic violence situation, call them periodically and check on them. Mm-hmm. Like, how are you doing? Right. FaceTime them. How are you doing? Do you need to talk? And there's some things that they can't talk about. Mm-hmm. And especially if you haven't set up a code that you guys had talked about prior to this COVID-19. But you could talk about shoes. Like, what color shoes are you wearing today? You know, or what is your favorite color shoes? Mm-hmm. Like, is it a red shoe day or black shoe day? You know, but that is if you and your friend had already talked about codes prior to now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you. What you're saying is we need to be present in the sense that we need to be on a webcam, FaceTiming them, Google Duo them, so that we could actually see what they're going through. And the code is important because I think that a lot of times in a domestic violence situation, people are not comfortable expressing how they feel and what's going on. And if you and your friend have a code that says something's not right, but I can't share what's not right with you, whether that code is a red shoe, blue shoe, yellow shoe, what have you. Having that code in place is a sort of like a safety net and an escape route for your friend to be able to say, hey, I need your help, without everybody in the world knowing that that individual needs their help. So I do follow you, and that's good information. Good information to share.
That is good information. I like to see people when I talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's good to say, look, I need to set eyes on you. Can we video chat?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, and if you know someone, a good friend of yours, sometimes you can look at them and see if they're okay,
Right.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then also being able to talk to them, call your friends. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a time that we need to stay in communication with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
the other piece is suicide. Okay. Because we're having cases of people attempting suicide right now because they're lonely, they're by themselves, they feel like people don't understand them, they are scared of the COVID, they're scared. And so this is also time to reach out to people because you don't know who, but this is the time to reach out to your friends, reach out to your family. How you doing? Do you need anything? Do you want to talk? Just basic conversation to see where they are.
Yeah, yeah, that's important. That is
Okay.
definitely important, Dr. Carol.
And it's good to have that hotline information, like the suicide hotline or domestic violence hotline information also, to say, hey, if you need this, let me text this to you if you need it. Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Carol, I know that sometimes when there's conflicts in the home, conflicts not rising to the issue of domestic violence, I'm just talking about basic disagreements. It goes to just different personalities being able to interact more regularly and in smaller quarters. I think I read somewhere about there's an attachment style, or there's compatibility and connection styles. Can you address each one of those topics? I know I gave you like a mouthful, like the compatibility and connection and attachment, and how that interacts with relationships.
We have like four main attachment styles that we tend to work with. One is secure, the other one is avoidant, another one is anxious, and the other one is like disorganized. And secure attachment style.
I'm a disorganized one. Well, but maybe not. Let me find out the definition of them before I go and so classify.
A secure attachment style person is one that you're autonomous. You're okay being separate, and when you come together, you're good. And so you know how sometimes people say, "Where's your better half?"
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when they say, "Where's your better half?" It's like you're a half person. You got to have somebody else to make you whole, and it's like you're leeching off of that person, like. And so, but with a secure one, you're whole already. And with your partner, the partner enhances you. Your partner it's not your half. That means you're a half person. So you're an autonomous person, you're secure, and your partner enhances you. Okay. And so that's the secure relationship. You're okay. When you come together, you enhance each other. You can work together. You can work separate. You can work together. Avoidant relationship is you don't want to talk about issues. For a secure relationship, if there a problem comes up, if there's an issue that comes up, you talk about it, you discuss it, you put it out there, let's discuss this. What should we do different? Okay? How do we handle this? But that's not, like you make me. No, I feel. When you do, I feel. This is how I feel. This is how it makes me feel. Okay. With avoidant, like, oh, it's okay. You dismiss it, you throw it up under the rug, you don't want to talk about it. And so that's the avoidant kind of relationship. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is it's still there. That rock is still there. You just avoid it. You don't want to look at it. Mm-hmm. Kind of thing. An anxious relationship is you're preoccupied by what the other person's doing when they're gone. Mm-hmm. So you can't hardly focus on what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Because you're preoccupied.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Your spouse is on a conference call, but you're wondering like who they talking to or who they're texting. You're supposed to be doing your work, but you're preoccupied about what they're doing. So so that's that anxious relationship. Like, don't feel secure, or are they gonna leave me? Or no, that's a difficult relationship. A disorganized relationship, you don't really solve stuff. Mm-hmm. Things become unresolved. and they remain unresolved.
Mhm.
And that's a difficult kind of relationship to be in.
Mhm.
And so what we want to do is we want to move people from those disorganized, anxious, avoiding relationships up to what? Secure relationships.
Right.
That it's okay to be our own self. And
Mhm.
when we come together, that's good. And that's what we want to do. It's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm. Yeah, and I joked about being disorganized. I was thinking about how my office is disorganized, but basically, I think that when I do have secure relationships around me, because I think it's important when you do see a problem that you address the problem. I think that so many people sometimes avoid it, and I see disorganized and avoidance as being sort of similar in the sense that you don't want to address the issue. But I think that, of course, it's important that when you do see a problem, that you assess what the problem is and you try to fix it. And I think that everybody maybe goes through, and you correct me if I'm wrong, goes through different periods of these styles and different times of their life,
Right.
whether they're immature or whether they're maybe under work pressure, how they handle those different things. But with the secure relationships or the secure type, you see that being a paramount in like man relationships, like loving relationships, or do you see what's your take on that?
I think for relationships to be loving and secure, that the secure type of attachment is the best one. That 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 people are able to be their independent selves and then become together
Right.
selves,
Mm-hmm.
independent and together. And so when we talk about relationships that have domestic violence and other types of relationships that are chronic relationships or dysfunctional relationships, a lot of times we see that in the avoidant, in the anxious, and the disorganized relationship, because there tend to be some lack of trust there,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
or some dependency, that the dependency may not be normal in a way. Because even with the secure relationship, there's some dependency there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not to the level that, oh, we're going to dismiss things, or we're going to avoid things, or we're not going to resolve issues that we have. Because all relationships, there's some degree of, there's something that's going to happen. There's going to be some issues there with all relationships, but it's how do you handle those? And how do we handle those in a healthy way?
Right.
Because right now with the COVID-19, many couples are home together.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting to see each other like 24/7 instead of seeing each other on the weekend. And so now I'm telling couples when I meet with them, I said, you guys are having long weekends now, aren't you? because they're so used to seeing each other, on the weekends mainly. But then they go to work and then they don't see each other till the evening. I said, so you guys are how do you handle these long weekends? And sometimes they're like, whoo, God. So we've come up with strategies for number one, like how do you handle your work areas? You work here, you work there. Okay, can you guys make sure you take lunch together? So stop work
nice.
and then have lunch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how are you playing together? Okay, can you get out and walk, go for a walk, do something, play together, have some fun, do some stuff. And so we're coming up with those kind of exercise. And some couples are doing Bible study.
Oh, that's nice.
So they're doing Bible study together. They're watching certain things on TV together. So they're doing stuff to break up this long weekend that they're having now and working. So they are. So
I like that. Those are good strategies to rekindle the love, because like you said, people live their sort of independent, busy life and then turn around and say, I've been married to this person for 20, 30 years and I've never really spent any sincere, in-depth time with them. And the COVID is causing a lot of people to stay at home and forcing them to spend time with their loved ones. And I think that, the strategies that you shared could help people reconnect and remember what qualities that person had to make them originally fall in love with each other. So do
Right.
share some more if you have any more
Okay.
about how
Well,
to reconnect and fall in love, after a length of time of just, just letting the love die a little bit.
right, right. And so one assignment I gave a couple just yesterday, and it goes back to being that grateful, like what am I grateful for every morning? They have to tell each other what they're grateful for each other.
Uh-huh.
And so this week, every day they're telling each other that I'm grateful to you for such and such.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it was interesting. And because they're working on communication. They're home, they're working on communication. And so I said, okay, can you guys do that? Sure, we can do that. So we'll see next week how that happens.
Okay, that's
So
good.
as a result. Yeah. And they have a big backyard, a huge backyard. And so some people are out planting, making little gardens, working together, having a project together.
Mm-hmm.
Like what project can you do together?
Yeah, I
And
like
that,
that.
and even that doesn't have to be something big.
Mm-hmm.
But some couples are going out, they're planting flowers. I mean, they're planting gardens, little gardens, things like that. So they're working together, doing stuff.
I
And
like that. I like that a lot. Dr. Carol, thank you so much for being on the show. Can you let people know how they could get in contact with you?
yes, my office is in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's Adonai Christian Counseling Services. I'm on Six Forks Road, 8522 Suite 104, Six Forks. My telephone number is 919-801-3199. My website is, www.adonaiCCS.com. Reach out to me at any time if you want to. I believe in marriages. I believe that couples are ordained to be together. And if you're having any issues, I will work as hard as you are, if you're willing to work together, to make sure that your marriage stay together. Amen.
Amen. Praise God. Thank you, Dr. Carol, for being on the show and for blessing us with your presence and your information. I truly appreciate you. And to my viewing audience, I would like to leave you with this quote by Abjay Naskar, where he says, helping those in need is not charity, it's humanity. And let's remember to be humane in this pandemic. Thank you so much, Dr. Carol, and thank you for watching. I love you and God loves you.
Amen.